So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday night Creator Convo call. My name is Noelle Marshall, and I'm here with my beloved Bob Warner. And
Hi, everyone.
Together we call ourselves Light Partners, and we are the stewards of the Co-Creators Convergence. And some of you may not are probably new to us. So what I want to do is take a short moment here and play a video, just very short video, about what the Co-Creators Convergence is all about. So that is a little bit about us. So we welcome you all. We're here every Thursday night with just wonderful, wonderful speakers. And right now what I want to do is introduce Kathy Mason. I'd say she's one of my BFFs. Mm-hmm. And she is also, I consider her almost like a co-founder of the Co-Creators Convergence. She's been with us just about every year. And she's very supportive and brings us amazing guests. So, Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce tonight's guests and do a centering for us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming. And I hope that more and more people will get to see this beautiful man's work. David Maria is a activated being who carries a code that he calls the Eaton Template. And what he does partially is he allows you to clear away the gunk that's running in your life so that you can really live a joyful, active life. What we're going to do today is first I'm going to do a centering so we all can breathe and get centered and present here. And then we're going to start the conversation with David, who I also must say is one of my teachers. Noelle and I and several people on this call are in a 9-session class called Freedom from the Known, not the unknown. The known that we're using. That's one of the most powerful things I've ever done. It's fabulous. So anyway, let's start with a centering. If that's okay, David, you good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Akashic Records. And what I want everyone to do is to breathe into this. I read this prayer 3 times, and then I hook up and make sure we're in. And David's been through this process before, so he knows the drill. Okay, so here we go. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the Galactic Akashic Records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available to us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the Galactic Akashic Record Keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the galactic Akashic records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available to us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the galactic Akashic record keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. Please breathe out as you start to embody this. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the galactic Akashic records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available to us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the galactic Akashic record keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. Masters, teachers, and guides, please show us what we need to know. Okay, so we're all in. We're all in. Thank you. Thank you. So, David.
Kathy.
I am so excited to introduce many of these people on the call. This is the first time they've ever experienced your energy and your work and the love that you hold. So what would I think be wonderful is if you could start with your call that you received to embody this work. If you could start with that information so that everyone could understand.
It would absolutely be my pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and also to co-create and share your presence with each other. And I'm deeply grateful to be here. This journey has been going on for a very long time. I've received major calls at various points to, shall we say, begin to wake up and make changes in my life that were necessary. In December of 2018, I started having major dreams, lucid dreams, and I've always been a dreamer, but I started having a series of extremely lucid dreams about going to Africa, and I did not understand them to begin with. The first dream was of being on a piece of property of a friend of mine in Kenya, and we were just on his property looking out over the savannah, and all of a sudden these three African kings appeared and started walking towards us. And I didn't begin crying, I began sobbing in the dream. I've never done that in a dream state before, because I recognized them. I knew who they were. And we had a short conversation, and they invited me to go into the bush with them. And I knew that meant that they were inviting me to come and study with them. And that turned out to be exactly 100% what it was. There was just an endless stream of miracles that came together just spontaneously that allowed me to go in the first place. To begin with, this was almost at the end of December. I knew what it was as we were being asked to come to the annual prayer vigil that circumambulates around Mount Kenya. And if you don't know anything about Mount Kenya, it is the place that we have always referred to as the Garden of Eden. It is the original Garden of Eden in that area. And if you know anything about it, the forest around it is primeval. There's no second growth timber in there because it has never been cut. The trees have not been harvested. And it's actually a World Heritage Site. It is so phenomenal. It is protected. And the energy on this place is phenomenal. It has always been referred to as the abode of the gods across so many different religions and practices. if you go back to very, very early, like pre-biblical times, all of the great saints and the prophets, no matter who they were, whether it was Abraham or Isaac or Isaiah or Yeshua or Muhammad or the kings and pharaohs of Egypt, they all came up the Nile to Mount Kenya to go through their final initiations. And I knew this going in, but I had no idea what was going to happen. So we made more than I went there with two other people, Beth Curia, who is from Kenya, but currently living in Ireland, and also Teresa Lutenager. And we made some mistakes or miscalculations about where the prayer vigil was going to begin. So we were late getting there. But unbeknownst to us, they had already told the gathering crowd who we were and that we were coming. Specifically, they told them who I was, which I had no idea, and because I didn't know who I was at that point. That hadn't been revealed. So we arrive an hour late, and people are anxious, and there's a lot of people. This is a big to-do in Kenya, and there were maybe 800-900 Africans that were there, and the only white people was myself and Teresa. And there's not only were we the only white people, there's never been a white person come to this gathering that I know of. And we just kind of walked across the road to join the back of the crowd. There's an obvious, very large gathering of people, and up in front there is what appears to be a priest and several other people, you could say the organizers. So we just walked around to join the crowd in the back, and no, they came and got us and pulled us up front and turned us around to face the crowd. It was both embarrassing and an honor at the same time. I was not prepared for this. And even though there had been all of these phenomenal dreams, and then we were introduced to all of the organizers, and eventually we were introduced to the seer or the shaman that was there to lead the invocation. His name was Samuel Kamitha. And when I looked at him, he was the man from my dream. He was the king from my dream. And he looked at me and smiled and told me that he had dreamt of me. And I laughed and said that I had dreamt of him too. And I was very calm. I mean, I was really calm on the outside, but on the inside, I'm just an absolute jumble. Everything is falling apart. Everything is shattering and breaking open at such a speed that I am almost non-functional, but I kept it together for a little while. Afterwards, this is a really big event within Kenya. So there were 4 TV crews that were there, and afterwards they all came and stuck these microphones in my face, asked me why I was in Africa. And I still joke to this day that apparently in that moment I had the gift of tongues, which meant that I had 20 of them, or however many it was. And they were all speaking at the same time in a different language. And what came out of my mouth was just gibberish. Very wisely, I did not make the evening news cycle within Kenya. They completely said, no, we're not going to use this. And it's almost humorous. But then afterwards, after the invocation was over, then Samuel had said that he would give the 3 of us a blessing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but when he came to give me a blessing, he heard his inner voice said, no, give him everything. So he transmitted to me the activations, the codes to be able to awaken the memory of who I am as a soul. And that doesn't mean that in that moment that I completely understood it, but the energy stream opened up. It was like being struck by lightning 4 or 5 times within just a few seconds. These huge jolts of energy began to flow through me. And then over the course of the next week, I had several visits with Samuel, some in public with others, but some privately. And I also what came was what I currently is the first class in the Eden Template series, which is Awakening Your Original Soul Blueprint. And what I have come to understand over the years is that this is not something that I transmit to others, that in terms of the Eden Temple is not something that is separate from me. It is literally who I am as a soul. I carry those codes. I've always carried those codes throughout all eternity. And my work has been to help others awaken in that same way, to be able to provide that level of activation for anybody that wishes to receive it. I offer lots of classes and I charge an energy exchange for that, but I never turn people away because of money. That's one thing that I'm very clear that I'm not able to do. So I offer this to anybody that wishes to be able to receive it. And then that's where, in terms of like working with all of you, that's where my work ends, is that if the awakening is there and I share all of the tools and the gifts that I have, which are fairly extensive in terms of the number of classes that this has evolved into. But really and truly from there, it's with you. Just like it is with me. It's up to me to do my inner work. It's up to me to go through whatever changes are necessary to crack open the places inside of me that are still frozen or still in any resistance, to be able to more cleanly or more extensively embody what my soul is.
Thank you. That really helped, I think, everyone understand a little bit more about your journey. The thing that, when I heard your voice, I heard you on an interview with Sanine, and I started crying right away. There's something with the frequency in your voice that activated my longing to hold more of my divine light in this vessel. And so that's where I want to invite people, if they hear David's voice and feel the resonance of it, then that's the first invitation for you to start uncovering your divine light as well. David, would you explain the Eaton Template and why it was hidden until now?
I can't tell you why it was hidden from until now, except to say that now it's time. Everybody on this call, I absolutely know, is aware that this is the time that has been prophesized for millions of years. In essence, we all know that this is the moment when there is a shift that is possible. So it's always been available. It's not that it's been hidden. It's that people, by and large, were not ready. It was not the time to just go public with the information and start disseminating. And it's definitely time for it now. So what the Eden Template is that over the part of what it is, over the course of the entirety of our incarnational stream, in all the lives that we have experienced, which, by the way, are not past or future lives. They're all here and now. They're all concurrent. But every time that we have died, and we've died unconsciously, meaning we haven't gone through the process of our own self-realization and remembered who we are. And by that, remembered that we are the divine itself. We are source. We are the creator. There is no separation. There has never been any separation between us and source. That's the illusion that we've all gone through in our incarnations. But every time that we have died and not remembered who we are, no matter how peace we are with the process, because people can not remember who they are and still be at peace with the process. But it does that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all, because what happens is that the body has an automatic fear response. It's the body that has this, because the body has not remembered that it is just part of a energy stream from source, and it thinks it's going to end. And that fear creates. Now, this is what I see. Others may see something different. It's okay. So what I see is that it creates a little smoky thread, and it forms around the base of our spine at the point to where it is our source creation, the entry point of source energy into the lower part of our spine, which then begins to flow up through the entire spinal column. So then if you can imagine having lived tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of lives, it creates a really tight, compact ball of smoky threads, kind of like a ball of yarn. And it continues to compact, and it chokes off the energy coming through the source point. And what the Eaton Template does is it opens that up. And as it opens it up, all of those smoky threads just poof, they just fade away as literally the smoke that they are. And then we begin the process of deliberately and consciously channeling the energy up through the central part of the spinal column, bring it out the top of the head, and let it cascade down around us. We also work on opening through another meditation that I'm not going to describe right now, but it's an opening of the heart, so it forms a horizontal toroidal field. And when both of those get opened and they begin to stabilize within your field, then you have a perfectly balanced as above, so below, as within, so without. You are connected to source. You begin the process of remembering that you are source, that you always have been source. There has never been any separation between you and all of creation. There hasn't been. That's a very short description of a very complex energetic process that is actually very simple also.
Well, all I know is when I did that first session, this was before the class started. I took that first session with you. I've done a lot of different processes over the years. I had to sit out on my deck in the sun for 5 hours. Not uncomfortable. I was in the sun, but I felt like I was rearranging the frequencies, not in a painful way at all, not frightening, but just allowing the sorting. It's like a defrag. I got defragged. Is that a way?
Well, if you remember, and what I didn't mention is that after coming back from Africa, right, I sat in my living room for 3 months, staring out the window. That's as much as I could do. The integration was so comprehensive, and in fact, my next door neighbor at the time was convinced that I'd had a psychotic break, and had spoken to a world-renowned psychiatrist that they knew in New York City to tell them what my symptomology was, and they concurred he has, and he needs to get into treatment as soon as possible. And when they came over and told me that what you just did, that was my response. I just laughed.
Right.
I said, no, everything is fine, but I understand from the outside it looks very unusual. So.
Well, just to let people know that you won't have 3 months you won't have what David had, but you may have hours of reintegration that'll allow you to release the programs that don't serve you.
Everybody will have the experience that they have because it's unique for each one of us.
Okay.
Some of us go through deeper processing and end up releasing more. my particular process was different because I not only had to go through it, but it was also necessary that I embody it completely in order to be able to share it with others. By the way, I wanted to make just one short correction where you mentioned my being a teacher.
Okay.
I no longer think of myself that way, Kathy.
Okay.
Internally, what has happened is that a teacher implies a student, and that implies a degree of separation somehow. There is none. It is what I offer, I share, and I share freely, because really and truly, every single person that comes is a living master. Every single person that comes to any of the classes, every single person that I meet is a living master. Whether or not they remember that or not is a different story.
Okay.
But there is no separation. Is what was it Sri Aurobindo said from India when somebody asked, "How should I treat others?" And he said, "There are no others."
Oh, right. Exactly.
There literally are no others.
Right. Well, the other part that I'm truly enjoying is being in a group with these other masters, and the energy and the camaraderie. It's like family that's been created from your classes. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, a group energy is always much bigger than just one person. And as you know, I do offer, there's lots of people that cannot attend the classes because they're on weekends. They have scheduling conflicts, they have kids, they have jobs, whatever it might be. And so I do offer the classes privately, one-on-one. That's always there. Nonetheless, in the context of a group, everybody's energy comes together, and it exponentially increases the amount that's there. Not only that, every single breakthrough, every single realization, every single place within inside of you that during the course of the transmission that you release something, you unify something within inside of you, that now goes into the group field, making it available to every other person that's in the group, even if they are not working on that particular piece. So everything expands exponentially.
It's quantum.
Yeah, it does. Everything goes quantum.
So you have felt these upgrades within yourself, and you're constantly examining your life and upgrading as well. But you are planning a trip back to Africa to get more inspired, I guess is the right word, or activated. Do you want to speak to that? Well, you're brave. That's all I know.
Kenya is my second home, and Africa is actually Kenya is my first home. I just don't live there. My work is not in Africa, but Africa is definitely my home. There's no question about it. I went there last year. It was incredible, and I'm planning on returning back again this year. And so within the context of the seers there, this is the Kikuyu tribe, of which in Kenya there are 42 tribes, which makes governance, as far as a government running a country, incredibly challenging because they all have slightly different perspectives. So within the context of the Kikuyu people, there's always been 12 seers. Originally, they were matriarchal, and then with the shift into the patriarchy, they became men. It hasn't happened yet, but they know, and I also know that there is one of the next generation of seers is going to be a woman. I actually met her in the first trip that I was there. She was a young girl, maybe 5, maybe 6. Unbelievable soul. And but this time I have been I've been told, and this is after having the dreams that happened when I went to Kenya the first time have begun again. And it's a continuous stream. I'm not going to claim that I understand all of them yet, but, and this is not about, what I'm going to say next is not about me personally. It's about all of us. So all of us are very close to the threshold, if you will, or the ceiling or the veil that is like the last piece that we have to go through, or we have to pass through before we completely dissolve into the mystic. And I've been shown that when I go to Africa this year, that's what's going to happen. I've been told that there will be a 3-day ceremony initiation that will happen for me while I'm there. And it's not, and I really want to stress, this is not for me. This is everybody. I have the path that I walk through. Just when I went to Kenya the very first time and was receiving that one activation that was like lightning, there was at least a dozen people in the States that had been invited to join energetically at the same time. They also got it. They also got it. So it's never about one of us individually. It's always about all of us. So in whatever way that veil can be lifted and go through, lots of people will go through at the same time across the planet.
So will all of us that are in your groups also get it?
That's a really good question.
Oh,
I don't have any answers for it.
Buckle your
not at all.
Oh my gosh.
I will, as always, extend the invitation for everybody to join, and we'll see what happens.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I know that you don't have words and explanation for a lot of the results that people or the experiences people have from your work or your play. We could call it play. But do you have any stories that you could share so people, if they're curious about this, or I guess there's people that are in our group that could maybe also speak to it, but I wanted to ask you first.
People have experienced dramatic changes. People have shifted completely and realize that this process at one level, it is destructive, but it's not weirdly destructive, because it starts to break through all of the layers that we have built up around ourselves from who we are. So as the energy begins to move through, and you've heard me say on many occasions, the energy is yours, it's ours, and it's here to serve us. So as you begin to work with it flowing through your body, then it begins to align your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. It begins to literally challenge everything about the way that you're living your life, if it doesn't serve you. And that includes beliefs. Whatever you believe, it's true. But if that doesn't serve you, then why do you continue to believe it? Why do you continue to believe that you should be in poverty, or that you are in living in lack consciousness, whatever it might be? So it will begin to break down in you the things that are in resistance. It will begin to bring distortions from this life or from other lives that have fractured off, that you're not been able to feel. It will begin to bring them up to the surface to be able to feel. And it doesn't matter what the story is. The stories around them don't matter. It's the feeling inside that is trapped. And once you feel them to their core, they release. And as you go through that process, you're basically just stripping off layers and layers and layers of stuff that has just been built around the core energy of who you are. And as that happens, you begin to emerge. You begin to emerge in the phenomenal light that you are, that we all are.
Well, I know that in our group, sometimes people fall asleep.
That's not uncommon.
Because I think a lot of times our body, our mind will get in the way. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. So the classes themselves are a series of guided meditations, but really and truly, that is just mind candy. That is just something that presents itself so that the mind can relax and be at ease. With people that fall asleep during the classes, it's because their mind is very engaged with what's going on. So the mind is taken offline so that the transmission, which is what is really going on, the transmission can be received exactly like I received it in just a millisecond, and then it unpacks. That doesn't happen for most people, but it can. So it's really the transmission. And when somebody goes to sleep and the mind is taken offline, it allows it to go even deeper into the cells of the body. And then over time, as they listen or re-listen to the recordings, then they begin to have conscious awareness of what the process was.
I'm surprised how much I get out of the recordings. Afterwards, the experience during the class in group is very powerful, but the recordings afterwards, I have to give myself time to integrate because they're so powerful. So I want you to know Steve Weber is here, and he'd like to, for David to explain more about all of us being very close to the veil or breakthrough point.
So, Steve, thank you for your question. So the primary reason especially for those souls that know what is happening right now, that the earth is changing, that the old way of how we have lived is just not working, it's not sustainable. And one of the ways of the old ways is that traditionally when people have had their self-realization moments, they have dropped the body, except for really, really great teachers, and then gone back into non-physical as ascended masters. But that's not what is happening now. That's not why we're here now. What we're here to do now, the main work that is in front of us, is to cleanse the body of all of the cellular debris that is contained within it. And remember, we have trillions and trillions. I think there's like over 3 trillion cells in the body, and every single one of them can carry a distortion or trauma from another life. That all has to come up and be released. So, as I mentioned earlier, that once the energy begins to run through your body, once source begins to move through, it begins to align, it begins to regenerate, it begins to restore, and it also begins the process of aligning your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. As that happens, as you go deeper into that, the vibration of the physical body raises, it increases, but instead of dropping it and ascending, what we're doing now is that as that frequency rises, the soul comes down in and incarnates fully. And I mean fully. Your I am presence literally comes into you, and you live as an embodied master in the physical body. Sometimes that can be really, really stressful. When was it? Maybe 9 years ago, I woke up one morning and the entire left side of my body was numb. I'd had a miniature stroke, like a transient event. And that was simply because the level of my vibration rose so quickly that it just completely stressed out the body. It was a momentary thing. But to get back to your question, Steve, is that we are right at the threshold to where we are right at the place where that embodiment can really begin to happen. There's a fair amount of people on the planet now that have already crossed through. But as we go through the final eclipse season of this year and go through the winter solstice, a lot more of us are going to hit that threshold point where that veil is going to begin to dissolve, and we will pass through it. It's a very organic process. You cannot force it. You cannot make it happen. The only thing that we can do is just allow as we go through it and not throw up resistance or throw belief systems on top of it and try and explain what it is or try and use the mind to be able to understand it. So before we move on, Steve, does that answer your question, or is there more details that would be helpful?
Yeah, I don't see anything here. Yes, but I heard each cell contains 600 pages of information. Wow.
How about 100 billion? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Literally, our bodies and our DNA, they carry the history of the entirety of the journey that we have been through on our incarnational stream. So from my perspective, the word enlightenment, which is just, say, on a journey of 1 trillion light years, enlightenment is a 1 millisecond event, and then we continue on the journey. But I've always thought of enlightenment because I have always viewed our lifetimes as being concurrent. They all exist in this now moment. They're separated by the artificial coordinates of time and space, or that we call time and space, which to me are just GPS coordinates. It's no different than I need to get from point A to point B. So enlightenment, from my perspective, is the simultaneous realization of all of those lives in one moment. And when that happens, which is what is happening now anyway, when that happens, the timelines that have separated them collapse. And they all come together in this moment, and they merge as you. And that doesn't mean that you don't continue to exist in all of those other lives, all of those other dimensions simultaneously. It just means that there is a singular awareness of a presence that is present within you, and that presence also reflects out into the rest of your lives.
Perfect. So Noelle asked, what do you think of organ transplants? Some say that you should never do that because it mixes up karma and those cells have a different memory.
There is no karma anymore. Karma's done. Karma's finished. We walk past that one. And remember, karma is not that you get payback for things that you've done. More than likely, the way karma used to work is that we have patterns going on because of what was done to us. Something happened, and we that was traumatic, and we still continue to act that out until we come to the point to where we can feel it and be conscious of it again and let it go, and then it stops. But karma for the planet, karma for us as individuals, it's over, it's done. We all now have complete and total freedom to choose what it is that we wish to do.
Perfect.
Without those replications.
That's fantastic. So, okay. Is the ding dong, the karma's gone. Thank you. That's from Wizard of Oz. Does anyone else have some questions? I certainly can ask more, but if others have questions, this really adds a lot. Okay, so Bill said, I'm reaching the world of education with an increasingly transcendent message and writing and speaking are still important for carrying out this mission. The opportunities are expanding rapidly, and I want to stay with them to share this work. When I go through the veil, will I still be able to sustain this work?
Bill, you're asking for the biggest question that there is, and that is, who is this I of whom you speak? If you can answer that question, then you have your answer. As we go through this veils, remember, we cannot take our minds with us. We still have a mind. It functions. We're able to do what we want, but we cease to be what could be referred to as the ego self. We cease to be that person. We're still who we are. So at its essence, I am an incarnation of my I am presence. When there is a moment like this where there is a sharing, there is a direct connection that happens from that I am presence. It comes down through the crown. And when you speak of my voice, it's because that energy flows through this vocal cords that are here, flows through the throat energy center. And that's the space where we cross through. We cross from individuality into the knowingness of unity that we are already. That doesn't mean that you lose anything, especially you don't lose anything of value. What you gain is immense.
This is perfect. He says, will Bill die and no longer be here to do the work?
Physically or mentally or emotionally, or what are you referring to?
I'm sure he's just talking about he wants his consciousness and the content that he's created, and it is very creative work. He wants it all to be available still after he says physically. Oh, physically.
Yeah, no, you remember, Bill, we're not here to die. We're not here to drop the body. We're here to embody in the body.
Right.
If you think of those old Star Trek movies of space as being the final frontier, no. The body is the final frontier.
Wow.
In my estimation, I would say 99.5+% of the people on the planet are not in their bodies, and they never have been. They have not experienced what it's like to actually be in the body. It's not easy. For most people, it's not easy.
Okay, wonderful. And do you find that I believe that there's different species of humans on the earth that have different DNA origin from different star systems. Do you see any difference in like the hybrids or the beings that are here for this ascension time? Have you seen that your process works differently with different people like that?
Excuse me, I don't know a lot about that. There are beings here from multitudinous galaxies and dimensions and universes, and there always have been. Some of them are in physical, some of them are in non-physical, surrounding the planet,
right,
in terms of helping with it. At one level, our DNA is so unusual that as soon as we get activated, everything begins to change.
Okay.
So our DNA begins to activate. It begins to grow in the number of strands that it has. It's not just limited to the two basal pair that we talk about in science.
Yeah.
And it's probably unlimited in terms of what is possible in terms of the recombination of our DNA, in terms of how we expand out.
Okay. Barb Bonamasso, who goes by Flo, said, I have had a loss or change of my voice in the past few months after recovering from respiratory issues. I am still wondering if this is part of a spiritual message.
Can you repeat that once more again?
Okay. She said she had a respiratory issue and she had a loss of her voice from it. And she's wondering if this is part of a spiritual message.
Yeah, I would suggest silence for you for a while, as much as you were able, in terms of just being still and quiet and allow everything to begin to flow through you. You're being asked to go deeper into your own personal stillness, and what will come through that is I can't say, but from personal experience I can say that it's immense.
So Kate's on this call, and she and I have studied with Johnette Crowley, who is she's now been made a grandmother, and she wrote a book called Soul Body Fusion. But what we're talking about, the premise that's in her book talks about that the power, the benefit of being in a human body. The soul is fine without the body, but you chose to be here and be in the body. And so the idea of is this merging and the power and the capacity to co-create with this merging. What David does seems to go much more deeper and much more what's the right word? Permanent. I haven't had to redo the recordings. I've wanted to redo the recordings. It's like layer after layer after layer is coming on.
What, in essence, what the courses do, Kathy and everybody, is that they begin to open dormant neural pathways within us, and they're not new. They've just been dormant, and it begins to open them. It begins to crack them open from the inside and expand them to where you now begin to, as you go through the process of your cleansing and your awakening, you begin to be able to experience on a much broader multidimensional scale. You begin to understand that you are a multidimensional being and that you are having experiences simultaneously across many galaxies, many planets, many dimensions, and many universes, and even beyond. So it begins to open those up to where more energy can flow through them. And the more that you work on your own alignment process, and trust me, this applies to me as well as anybody else, because I get cracked open as you know. Yeah. The more the energy flows through, the more it widens and opens up those channels so that more energy can come through. And as that happens, other dormant neural pathways begin to open also. So the brain and the mind are phenomenal within the context of how they work. So
perfect. Okay, so want to say one of the people here asked a question if you could explain the difference between a soul and a spirit. A lot of people use that term interchangeably.
I don't know that I have an adequate explanation for you. A soul is an emanation from source. And there are multiple components to being a soul. There's you as an individual. There's the soul family that you're a part of, or soul group. Then there is the context of how you are within the I Am Presence, because the I Am Presence is only unity consciousness. However, within the context of that, there are multitudinous beings that are there. Some have never been in incarnation. Some have been in incarnation. And some are awake enough in incarnation that they are able to communicate back to it. Some souls are twinned to each other, which is vastly misunderstood. And some souls are of such incredible purity that they are as close to source as it's possible to be without actually being source. And at the same time, we are all of that. If you've ever seen the picture of Dante's Ascension from his book, where he shows this huge spiral of angels gradually being moved into source. If you think of that process, you are every single one of those angels.
Yeah.
Because there is no separation.
Right. So I do have a question for myself. I was with an beautiful indigenous lady last night, and she smudged me and was worried about dark energies. And since I've been doing this work, I haven't even thought about it because I'm assuming the light will transmute that. Do you have any comment on dark energies or attachments?
Well, let's just say that darkness is vastly misunderstood.
Okay.
There's darkness and then there's darkness. So foundationally, the universe is what, 99.9999999% emptiness and darkness. It's the foundation that everything manifests on.
Right.
And we go through cycles in our own planet, our own solar system, we go through cycles of light and dark. And as souls on a journey, we go through that same process. And sometimes souls choose to go into darkness and do things that normal people would consider to be horrific, but it's just part of a soul's journey. And eventually everything returns to source. So we are at the point to where, as we make the energetic changes inside of us, then what we're asking our own darkness to do, our own shadow to do, is to come up and be felt and released. I personally have not felt the need for quote unquote protection for probably 2 decades, something like that. That does not mean that I don't go through my house and clean it. That doesn't mean that the energy, if it's not moving, that it begins to stagnate. So I will go through the house and I will smudge. I will do things, make offerings to local spirits like that are still here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I do not experience the need for protection. How does source need to be protected from anything?
Right. It was more about that I was thinking, I felt somewhat invincible. Oh, well, so much for that. I liked it. I liked the idea that I felt that way. On Facebook, one of our friends wrote, for Roxanne Schweppe, who's a fairy godmother, grandmother. Do you have a sense of in what ways, if any, that those of us experiencing this integration over the coming months would be oriented to contribute to the needs of humanity?
So what are the needs of humanity?
Okay.
Are we talking about shelter and food and water?
I don't know. I assume.
Or are we talking about humanity's almost desperate need for spiritual nourishment?
Beautiful.
to be able to begin the process of remembering who they are. And trust me, if somebody's hungry, then food is necessary to be able to share.
Right.
So simply, I would say we each one of us is guided to share in the way that we're guided to share. If I meet a homeless person and I interact with them, I'm going to do whatever I can in that moment to be of assistance to them. So each one of us knows what it is that we're being called to be able to do.
Okay. So Marilyn wrote, I've been told I'm a seer. How do I begin to walk into that? I go through moments of clarity, but I mostly deal with blocks. How can I walk into the truth of my gifts?
So if you're a seer, and I am a seer also, somebody asked, how did I know that 5-year-old girl was going to be one of the next seers? It's because I'm a seer and I was shown it. So when you receive information through insight, through your senses, it's different than thinking, because when the information comes, there is a knowingness that is present with it, and you absolutely, unequivocally, no doubts, 100% know that it's true. And I was shown that about this little girl. And there have been conversations that I have shared with the other seers in Kenya, and they agree that there is a shift coming. They've seen it. They've seen it also. So it's wonderful to have this ability, Marilyn, to know that you're seeing, and it is a process. It is a process that we all go through, and it evolves in each one of us. As it evolves according to the path that we have laid out for ourselves. And the biggest thing that I can say to anybody is that you don't have to do anything. You just, all we have to do is allow. When we make the intention to be on the path, and that's why we're all here. Every single person on this call is here because they have agreed they are going to go through the embodiment process. And that means that they are going to let go of everything that no longer serves them. And by that, I don't mean that you're going to lose your house or your car or your job, although those things may happen. It's different for every single person. I completely lost everything on multiple occasions and just went down to the bare bones. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way for every other person. It may not. It depends upon how much resistance you have in the process, or how much you're just willing to ride with it and just allow that process to happen for you. Beautiful. So, and I would say also, Marilyn, all seers see differently. We see according to the capabilities that we have. So much like people that do readings, they are only able to read us to the level that they have cleared themselves. So when I see, it's based on how much I have cleared myself.
Perfect. Okay. One more question, and then we'll hopefully do our process. Jen Smith asked, will mankind see the end of darkness?
Interesting. That's up to mankind to decide. And that's also up to what is the definition of darkness. So
beautiful.
If you think of the word Armageddon biblically, of like the end of times and the destruction of everything, that sounds pretty horrific, but the real meaning of Armageddon is the lifting of the veil. To where you begin to understand who you are. You begin to remember who you are.
Okay. One more question, I guess, and then we'll, because I don't want to cut short our process, but Pamela Girali put, we have been told to practice. Have we been spinning our spiritual wheels?
That depends upon what it is that you've been practicing. If you've been practicing riding your bike, you've probably gotten really good at riding your bike. Meditation is always probably the single most wonderful thing that we can do, and I speak of it on a fairly regular basis. But I don't have a technique. I just sit. And just allow everything to be as it is. If there's thoughts, well, they flow through and then they disappear. But mostly it's just sitting in stillness and coming into the body. So without preconditions or preconceptions of what it might be. So there's certainly no harm in doing practices. If it becomes a belief system that you believe you have to do this in order to be spiritual, in order to continue to open up and grow, then that's a belief system, and eventually it's going to be it's going to present itself to you to examine if you wish to continue to do that.
So I have to tell you almost everybody on this chat has said thank you, and has appreciated your answers. I want to make sure, because I know you can't see. Pamela just put thank you, amazing. So
thank you to each and every one of you for being here. This is a privilege. This is a privilege to just be in the presence of all of you and to share presence with each one of you.
I'm so glad we're friends. That's the cool part. Okay, so you had said, you and I had talked about doing the process, go into the still point of the heart. Does that still work for you?
It always works for me.
Okay, so should I mute myself? Is that the best thing to do? Is there anything I can do to help you?
No, we're good.
Okay.
So in essence, everything emanates from stillness, where there is no movement, no sound. And it's pre the creative process. It's before creation begins to emanate. So inside everything, and I don't care what it is that you can name, inside everything, there is stillness. Inside every movement, there is stillness. Inside every non-movement, there is stillness. Stillness precedes everything. So what we're going to do is just a very simple, short meditation that goes into stillness. So our hearts are actually extremely active. There is a lot of movement. Our hearts are like a continuously blooming flower that is constantly unfolding with new energies, new information in every now movement. And in essence, our hearts create a toroidal field around us. So if you can imagine that there is a continuously unfolding flower in the front of your heart, and that as it opens, the petals that had opened a little while ago, they're curving around and they rejoin that stream in the back to where it's a circulation, but it is incredibly active. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of movement and motion as this continuously unfolding stream of energy is happening. But at the very center of it, it is absolutely still. There is a still point there. And that's where we're going to go today. So this is a meditation, so I'm going to close my eyes, mostly because it makes it easier for me to feel and see if my eyes aren't involved. So just make yourself comfortable wherever you are. If you happen to be laying down, do your best not to fall asleep, but if you do, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong way to be able to do this. So then let's begin with some nice breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth with a very gentle exhale. And as you continue to breathe, allow your awareness to be able to move over your body. And if there's a place that you're feeling some tension or a point of contraction, just send the exhale of your breath there and just relax it, allowing your body to relax as much as it possibly can. And then as you continue to breathe, notice or feel however you experience it, whether it's through feeling or sensing or knowing or seeing, it doesn't matter, it's all the same, that we are gathered here as a group. Not only all of the people that are on this call, but all of the people that will listen to this call at a later point, they are actually all here too. And we are standing in a circle and we are holding hands with each other. And as we are holding hands, you will notice or feel that the energy is moving around us in a circle in a counterclockwise and in a clockwise motion. You may also feel that there are many other beings that are here, that have come here to be present, to be able to share with you. And as we continue to breathe as a group, there is a sphere of crystalline, translucent light that is forming in the middle of us. And as we continue to breathe, that sphere grows larger and larger and larger until it is bigger than us as a group, and we are contained within inside of it. And then as you continue to breathe, with each breath that you take, go into your heart. And as our breathing continues with each breath that we take, we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the heart. And the deeper we go, the more the heart opens until it's no longer my heart and your heart, it's our heart. And the deeper that you go, no matter how much movement you may be experiencing with the heart opening and expanding, no matter how amplified that energy may be for you as we continue to go deeper, there is a point that we will reach, and you will know it, that is absolutely still. And it is from that stillness that all of the movement that the heart engenders emanates from. And that still point is directly connected to your I am presence, which you may feel coming down like a column from above you, coming down through your crown, coming down to that still point within your heart. And begin to emanate from you, begin to flow through you. You may experience a sensation of a breeze that is gently flowing through that still point, and it is only that still point that it can emanate through. That breeze is the breath of the I Am. And as it flows through you, as it emanates from your heart, you may feel it as concentric waves that are continuously emanating from that still point, washing over every single cell in your body. And the breath of the I Am is the very essence of grace. Grace comes unbidden, unasked for. You cannot make it come. It comes of its own volition. As it flows through you, all of the cells in your body begin to resonate, because in every single cell in your body, there is also a point of stillness. As that resonance begins to fully begin to connect all of your cells together, you will discover that the breath of the I Am that is flowing through the stillness point in your heart begins to emerge from inside all of your cells. And stay here as long as you wish. There is no hurry as far as from my perspective. Stay here as long as you wish. And it's so lovely to see all of you.
How's everyone feeling?
Very peaceful.
Beautiful.
Just because of time constraints, that's very short.
Yeah.
And there is an entire class that is built around just that.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. And this is the second meditation I had today. I had one earlier with the Global Heart team, and it was a very similar meditation. And so it really threaded together my day beautifully. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Flo. You're very welcome.
David, we need to talk or not. Thank you.
You need to do the fear meditation again.
Yes, Bill, you're dying, and we're all dying. But at the same moment that we die, we're also being born. So it balances out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And there was 3 or 4 people from Hawaii on this call tonight. So that was really cool too.
Someone says, absolutely divine. Ralph will definitely watch later. Much love.
That's Kate. She's up,
Kate.
Orange up.
Well, David, I want you to mention how people can get in touch with you. And also Kathy and I are doing the Freedom from the Known right now. And maybe explain a little bit about that class. We have a different theme each time, and they all seem to build on each other. And just more about, how people could work with you if they feel that call.
Thank you. Thank you, Noel. You can find me on Facebook. My website is theeatontemplate.com or just eatontemplate.com. They both work.
Yes, thank you.
I offer the offerings that I have are one-on-one personal sessions in which we work on clearing energies or whatever arises. I offer individual classes. There's currently 7 of them. And then there's one course, which is the next one will begin October 2nd. It's now a 10-week course with a bonus 11th week. And during the course is designed, although I realize how silly this is at one level, it's designed to be a series of activations and clearing, activations and clearing. So it's kind of like going, we activate energy fields within the body, and then the next week we will do a clearing to help cleanse anything that is arising that is surfacing because of the activation. And eventually, in the last week, we do a 2-hour-long journey directly to source, where I take you and realize I can't take any of you, but I guide everybody right to their I am presence, and then from there, I can't take anybody farther. I can't guide anybody past that. But from there, everybody has the opportunity to step into and merge directly with Source, as each one of us are able to do. It's different. It's different for everybody. And when I say it's almost silly that it's designed this way, because this is, in essence, a shamanic journey, and any phase of a shamanic journey can happen at any time. So for some people, they may take the last step first, and the first step may be the last thing and maybe it doesn't even happen at all. So these things always are completely and totally out of time. And it's only recently that it has been shown to me, because I did a personal session for a friend in England, and what came through was to give them the last step from the course, and no one was more surprised that was what was happening than me. But it doesn't really matter. We all go through the process as we go through it. People that go through the course, they start experiencing it before the course begins, and each week they start going through whatever it is the next week's class is going to be. They begin to experience internally what it is. So registration for that course is open. You can find it on my website. The early bird registration, I think it ends. I don't pay attention to
what you set up. Well, I did put the link in chat. And if you want, there's 4 of us on this call that are in this class right now. So, and one of them's from England, she's not on the video right now, but it becomes quite a remarkable experience. Bill's on his 2nd time through.
So the early bird registration ends September 18th.
Oh.
Well, I can't really give a testimonial for David because I always fall asleep. So I would say maybe that's really great because I can, my little monkey mind goes someplace else. And I just know that I make sure I'm on every one of those calls. They're just so powerful. So I could say that way. And he makes all the calls downloadable so we can, I'm going to be I'm going to have to do some catch up work. But I'm at every call, but I want to do more because I know they're really great. I know I just feel it.
Oh, well, I can tell you, I'm feeling very different from where I've been, and even with all of the chaos in the world and all the projects I'm working on, there's this steady centering and knowing from doing this work. And as I said, I've been doing this a long time, so I was surprised how much was still there to clear. It's fabulous. I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you also, Noel, for falling asleep each week.
I'd like to say that I've listened to the recordings multiple times, each time through the class. And every time I can take that process deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, that's been just such an asset to have those available. It's been extraordinary, and I've never been in such a period of, I'll call it creative download that's manifesting in my work just enormously, just absolutely enormously. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for that. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everyone for coming, and just honored, a deep bow to you, David and Kathy, for this wonderful evening. So thank you, everyone.
Well, fabulous, Noel. That means I'm going to be invited back. I like that.
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
thank you all so much.
Thank you again,